Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Squared Circle Select Start. Today we will be discussing digital versus hard copy collection and the rise of esports on sports channels. Stay tuned. Hello everyone and welcome to Squared Circle Select Start. I'm the nerdy prince, Rahim Ali.
I'm a player Uno or evil Uno, either one. Player Uno is probably more accurate for this podcast.
Sure. Like split personality.
I've got many personalities.
Yeah. And once again, this is our podcast of video gaming, everything related to it, because we're just huge fans of the industry.
Yep.
And we always start our podcast off by talking about what we're playing.
All right.
So why don't you get into it?
So I'll go first.
Yep.
So the big news from this week is that No Man's Sky is finally released.
It's taking over all the news.
Everyone is talking about it. If you look on YouTube, you look at any website, it's just post upon post about tips for No Man's Sky, things No Man's Sky doesn't tell you. Oh, look at these No Man's Sky animals. So I've actually pre-ordered the game, but I didn't go pick it up yet. Because I was a little wary. So they pushed back the PC release to Friday. We're recording this just ahead of the Friday. Actually, this Friday. It's not out
it's
yet
today.
And I pre-ordered it on PlayStation. So what I did instead is I rented it on PlayStation. Because a fear of mine is that I'll get the PlayStation version and the PC version will be worlds better. Because most times that's what happens. So I've played about 8 or 9 hours in the last few days. And I personally really like it. So if you don't know what No Man's Sky is, you probably live under a rock.
Yeah.
Because there's been 3 years of hype behind it, with a lot of expectations projected on the release. But it's like a space exploration game where they've created a vast universe of, I think it's like 18 quintillion planets, I think is the number.
Somebody counted.
Yeah, that's it.
That was his job. What are you up to, Dave?
2.
Oh, damn it, I lost count.
It's such a large game with such vast potential and of scenarios and stuff that they had to create fake probes within their game to test it out because they couldn't have enough testers to make it. So anyways, what happens is you get thrown into a random planet anywhere in the huge galaxy and you're told that your goal is to either get to the center or you can follow one of the other strings of story. It's very exploratory based, so each planet is, different colors, got different atmospheres, it's got different animals, different plants, and you have to go and analyze and discover all these different things and upload it to the cloud so you can say, hey, look, I found this, this is my stuff, blah, 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 blah. So I like that. It's very tranquil, it's very relaxed, and a lot of people are kind of not into that.
A lot of people didn't realize it's like an item management type game.
Exactly.
I don't know what they were expecting.
I think it's because it's been it's been teased for so long that people have projected what they thought they would be. So like they're thinking, oh, I can jump in with a spaceship with my friend and we can blast things. Well, first of all, it's so vast that it's very unlikely you'll ever see anyone. If anything, we don't even know if you can see someone. That's like
that's the big topic of debate.
That's it. This whole week, that's all people have been talking about. So who knows? You might be able to see someone. Maybe the center of the galaxy is a lobby. That's what I was considering. I was like, if we're all going to the same place, I'm going to see someone, right?
Yeah, that would make sense.
And so that might be why they're so silent on if this game has multiplayer or not. So it's part exploration. The exploration aspects, I really like it. I love the flying into space. It feels great. It looks really pretty. The game is voxel based, so everything is like a flat color, but it looks really good. It's not very demanding on the PS4. There is some pop-in and stuff. But like the elements that kind of soured me at first is the item management. So it's all about survival. So you need, like, let's say you need your armor needs carbon to run. So you gotta go and mine carbon to make sure that you replenish your armor. Then your ship needs plutonium to fly, so you gotta go on a planet and find plutonium. All these kind of things, and you have a limited amount of inventory space. So you have to try and go on planets, find, camps, and in those camps you'll find an upgrade that'll give you more inventory space, and by doing that you can bring more resources, so you can go trade it at an outpost, and then you get more credits, so you can go buy things that you couldn't find, so you can upgrade another thing in your inventory, and then you gotta upgrade your spaceship. So it's a lot of adding up numbers. I don't foresee myself, I don't even know if I'll ever even beat the game. Because I'm not even really following the path. I'm just jumping left and right and so on and so forth. But I'm super curious to see what's at the middle. And right now it's got me hooked. All I can think about is even though I have my gripes with the game, the combat's iffy. It's kind of repetitive because they've made such a vast game that every now and then you'll see a planet that's completely different. You're like, oh my god, there's sand here. I don't know, but oh my god, look.
I've never seen that before.
It's I've never been on a sand planet. But at the base, it's still, you're kind of just doing the same thing. You're micromanaging all these little resources and trying to better your character so you can get further distances and go faster and stuff. So right now it's got me hooked. All I can think about is No Man's Sky. It also doesn't help that everyone is talking about No Man's Sky. Yeah. So
they will for a while.
Oh yeah, for a while. And I think this is going to be one of those games that will get better as it evolves. Because they already released the first day patch and it changed the game drastically. And they're already talking about base building.
Yeah.
Taking over space stations as a heist. Who knows what else they'll incorporate. So if it's a game that they're really planning on, let's say Hitman. They came out with Hitman. They're like, hey, this is going to be a long game. We're releasing a whole season of episodes, and then we're planning on 2 other seasons. If this is the type of game that they're going to keep updating, I could foresee myself playing this for a year. I
think they are. I think they're going to keep doing that because you can really tell when you hear Sean Murray talk about the game.
He's so excited.
This is his love game.
Yeah, that's it. He's invested 100%. Yeah.
And I don't know if you read it, but he sent out a letter to reviewers. There was a letter that he sent.
Yes.
A review copy.
It was just essentially about how much work and how much of their blood they had put in.
But it wasn't one of those look at how much we did and blah blah blah. It was just a love letter. Hey, I hope you enjoy it as much as I do.
Yeah, I've worked. I think one of the lines was I've worked 5 years on this, and I can't wait till you get lost in this universe.
Yeah.
Just as us.
I don't know. I haven't bought the game. I haven't pre-ordered the game. But his passion towards the game makes me want to try the game.
Yeah, that's it. I think that's what also sold me on it so many years ago. Is when it came out, it looked great, and then when his first interview, he's a super shy guy because their studio is a very small studio. I think they had 12 or 13 people, which is unreal.
I don't even think it's that many.
Yeah, I think they started as a 5 people studio, and they made Joe Danger, which is just a mobile game, and now they're making essentially the largest game ever created because nothing's ever as far as space and scope, and so it just seemed unreal of an idea first of all, and he was so excited about it, and that's what got me excited. I think even if you don't pick it up today, and in 6 months you see it on sale, in 6 months, guaranteed this game will be 10 times better. Because
they'll be releasing things for it and everything.
That's it, because 5 weeks ago they had the gold edition of the game, which that's when it's finally printed onto a CD. And in the 5 weeks that they've worked since then, they've changed the game drastically with a patch.
Yep.
So I can only imagine, give it 6 months where this is definitely going to make a lot of money. So they can invest the time into continuing it on, unless they're planning on making another game right now, which... who cares? Good for them if you do.
And this was... Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah.
This was kind of a gamble in a way for Sony.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
To make it... Because it's console exclusive, right? It's coming to PC. But
it'll be on PC, exclusive. But it's solely on PlayStation for consoles. And I think their bargain is that they own nothing about the game. It's just exclusive to them, but they pay for the marketing.
Yeah.
Which has been a pro and con situation where... Pro was everyone knows what No Man's Sky is, but the con is it's been advertised for 3 years and everyone assumes it's something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Overall, I say as far as the gameplay and itself, I'd say maybe I don't like giving numbers to games, but let's say like like a 7 out of 10. But like people usually think
use the butt system.
That's it.
6 butts up.
That's it. Exactly. A good amount of butts. I like it. I don't think it's for everyone, and I also think that a 7 doesn't mean that it's bad.
No.
There's definitely some parts that need improvement, but it's still worth playing.
That's something that's only in the video game industry where it's like they'll rank out of 10.
Yeah.
But if it's not an 8 or above, it's like garbage.
Yeah, that's it.
I don't understand that. When did a 7 out of 10 be like, this is trash, I don't even want to buy it?
Like, imagine like a 4-hour game. Just a 4-hour game. And it gives it a 7. People are like, oh, this is trash. I'm not spending $5 on this. Like, no experience is a 10. Or very few experiences. And even a 10 is not a perfect game.
No.
7 just means it's good.
Yeah,
it's not great. It didn't reinvent the wheel. It didn't make you feel anything. Yeah. But it's still good.
No, a lot of my favorite games from last gen were like, they were rated 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Like Vanquish was a 7 out of 10 game by all reviewers. That's why I don't really like those rating systems.
Yeah, and even a 10, it's all subjective. A 10 could be great. Like Witcher 3. I'm sure it's a great game. It's not for me.
Yeah, no,
it's a 10 anyways, though.
I can't sink into it.
Like Metal Gear Solid, we had a discussion about this before, but great game. Not really for me either. Too big and too repetitive.
And the second half, I don't know. The whole second half and the final part of the story was just such a letdown.
Yeah. But I could see the view that you would give it a 10. You know what I mean? So,
right.
But I highly suggest it. I think you should play it, Ali. I think that's at some point you probably will. If they incorporate an actual multiplayer at some point, that'll be even better. Right. How will that work? I have no idea. But fully invested. I'll stop talking about it because I could talk about it for hours.
We can make a whole episode about it.
We could, but let's not do that because then I'll ruin a lot of things for you. What about you? What you've been playing?
I'm going to mention 2 games.
Perfect.
Because one of them is not really a game. It's just a time sinker. I don't have the website on me for it. It's a Flash game. Okay. Just Google search it. It's called Sesame Street Fighter.
Okay.
And so it kind of takes like the Street Fighter characters, or rather the Sesame Street characters, puts them in like Street Fighter skins, but is akin to the original Sesame Street game where you had to type words.
Okay, like the spelling bee.
Yeah, so like you'll pick Oscar the Grouch, but he looks like Blanca.
Okay.
And you have to type the words as fast as you can to attack your opponent. So like Cookie Monster is E Honda Cookie Monster, Bert and Ernie are Ryu and Ken, and each character has a difficulty rating with how difficult the words will be. So I took Oscar the Grouch. And so a lot of his words were Russian cities.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Really hard to type
fast. Okay.
Yeah, and the final character is Elmo M. Bison.
Oh, that's awesome.
and he's really hard.
Is Big Bird in this?
No, I didn't fight Big Bird.
That's too bad.
Yeah, It sucks. But they might expand on it. I don't know. But it was it's such a fun, easy game. It took me maybe 5 minutes to beat it.
Yeah.
So if you have any free time and you're just like, you're waiting for something on the computer or, somebody's going to call me back, just type it up and play this game for a little bit. It's fun. It's stupid, but when you see these Sesame Street characters as Street Fighter characters, you'll want to keep playing.
The thing that's crazy is like, we were talking about this beforehand, but like typing games in general, I love those.
Oh, me too.
It's like, I love the House of the Dead one. Even when as a kid we went to school, I'd have like these really crappy typing games to learn how to type fast, and I love those things.
Yeah, they were, I don't know, they were a fun challenge, and you kind of felt this weird sense of accomplishment. Like yesterday when I was typing the Russian cities as fast as I could, I was like, yeah, man, I know my Russian cities.
The thing that's crazy is like, back in the day, I used to play a ton of browser games. Nowadays, it's so easy to make your own game on an independent level that you don't see that many browser games with like a following of any kind.
Yeah.
Like I remember every day I used to go to Newgrounds and play games.
Yeah, Newgrounds or Miniclip.
Exactly, all the time. And now it's like, oh, I could do that, or I could play one of the other 60 games that came out on Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's unreal. But on the subject of the game of Elmo Street Fighter, I just thought about that, but an actual fighting game where you're typing and like I'm versus you and we're both typing to fight each other.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, that's what made it really cool, was especially when you started going to the higher up bosses, like when you finally got up to Elmo, you have to type as fast as you can, because if you take a break, and then they'll start typing in, and then you have to wait until they either make a mistake or there's a break in them typing.
So it's turn-based.
No, so you have to type it as fast as you can, but let's say I'm typing like Magnitogorsk.
Okay.
And I got stuck from the G and the O.
Yeah.
There's a little pause. In that pause, it's like their keyboard unlocks and they can attack.
Okay, I see. And then until they take a break, you can't type.
Right, so you're just like slamming that O key like, oh my gosh, I'm almost
So
done
if you typo, it gives them an opportunity to fight.
Right, and if you make a mistake on the word, it resets. You have to start the word over again.
Well, this is a free idea to anyone that wants to make a fighting game. Make that fighting game. Like, if I could play against anyone online where we just type and smash keys,
I would love it.
This would be a great multiplayer game.
It would be the first fighting game I'd buy.
I haven't bought one in forever.
I stink at fighting games.
Yeah.
But if it was like, I'm fighting by my typing skills, I'm all over
I think the last fighting game I bought was Injustice, and that's solely because, like, I like fighting games. They're fun. I ain't good at them. But, like, it's got Batman in it, so you gotta pay. I had to play it.
Yeah. I'm a fan of watching fighting games.
Yeah.
I stink at them.
Yeah,
I mean, like, you've seen when we used to do the 4-player things.
Yeah.
I was terrible.
Yeah,
I'd be the guy who'd just be spamming like the leg sweep.
Destroyed in the first round every time.
I just kept trying to sweep the leg. So that's one game.
Okay.
But the game that's been spending a lot of my time, or that I've been spending a lot of my time on, is called Grand Kingdom.
This is it tactical RPG?
Yes, it's a tactical RPG with a terrible name. It's so generic
that you can't tell.
Which is funny though. Like, they picked such a generic name, like Grand Kingdom. It sounds like a mobile game, but the game is so unique as an RPG. It's something that I haven't really played like that before.
And what console is this on?
So it's I think it's on all of them.
Oh, is it? Okay.
I'm not sure about PC, but it's definitely got to be on. I know it's on PS4.
Because that's what you're playing it on?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure it's on Xbox One as well.
I'll have to check that out.
We'll have to look that up. We'll look that up right now.
Yeah.
But it was released by Spike Chunsoft in Japan and NIS America, in North America. And it's a game within a game within a game. So, basically, there was a kingdom that went to war, and it's split up into 4 factions. But instead of picking a side, each faction hires mercenaries
to fight out their
battle, and you're one such mercenary. And so you have the mercenaries base, which is the base of operations for all mercenaries. And in there you can hire mercenaries, so it's kind of like Disgaea, where you would hire your cast.
Okay. So that leaves like a vast opportunity to change your playstyle.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You build your team.
Okay.
And then down the line, if you say, oh, this guy, I want to buy this guy, so I don't have any slots, I'll retire this guy. Like, I'll fire him and then hire this guy. And you can customize each character, how they look, what skill set you want to give them. Like, you can train specific skill sets that you buy, armor, the whole shebang. And then you sign these contracts with each nation. So you say to one nation, I'll fight up to 5 battles for you. And the more battles you pick, the better the return you'll get from them.
Okay. So
I sign my contract with them, and now I have access to their capital as well, and whatever neutral allies they have.
Okay, so you have, like, by hiring them, you have whatever whatever their hires are, you can also delve into.
So like whatever skills I pump into a certain nation will now apply for me.
Okay.
I can go to their capital, and I can buy unique loot that I wouldn't be able to get at the mercenary base. And then I can go to the neutral countries that are not at war with it. I can't go to the country that I shouldn't say country, but the rival faction that I'm warring with. I can't go to their capital until my contract's done. So you pick all these contracts, and you can change on the fly. So I can finish one contract with one nation and then go sign one with the nation I just fought against. But what's awesome about these contracts is, let's say, like in most of these, like, what are they called? Like group RPGs, like when you have a party RPG, you always pick your favorites, and then you have these guys who are just sitting around not ranking up or anything. So with these contracts, I can send the troops that are not doing anything out, and I don't have to manage them. They'll come back, and then I can upgrade them accordingly with what they come back with as I'm continuing. Because that's not even the story. That's just like an online component as I'm continuing the story with the party I want to build. So like that, there's all that micromanaging. And then when I pick my quest, it turns into a game board.
Okay, so it's not there's no linear path. You also choose your quests on top of that.
So there's a story quest, but then when I sign a contract, no, I can pick which quests I want to go to.
Okay, so like that opens up your side stuff. Okay.
Right. So when you pick a quest, a game board opens up, and you have a certain number of moves to get from the beginning to the end of the quest. Okay. And it kind of, like, it's not fully linear, but it's not like a chessboard where you can go anywhere. There's a path that you follow, and sometimes it diverts a little bit. Like there might be a treasure chest down one lane, so I'm going to take a couple of moves to go get it. So you have back to the main path.
You actually have to calculate your moves and make sure that you have enough to, let's say, pick some of the stuff, but you can't pick all of the stuff because you have to make it to the end.
Right. Okay. So like your party is represented by a chess piece as it hops around the board, but every one hop you take, the enemies on the board also take a hop.
Okay.
And then when you're on the same square, you fight. And the battle, this is the third part of the game. The battle now is like a 2D side-scrolling turn-based system. So there's 3 lanes that you put your party onto.
So I'm thinking, is it like a side view on 2D, or is it like isometric, where like Final Fantasy Tactics, or
no? It's not like it's not like Final Fantasy Tactics because that was grid-based, right? No, this is like have you ever played a Vanillaware game?
I don't think so. No.
So this is made by Monochrome, who were former Vanillaware employees, and it's very similar vein to them. Like it's really gorgeous looking. But when you get to the battle, it's side view. Okay. You just see the 3 lanes.
You just see the 3 lanes and they're about to collide.
Right. Okay. But you have to be strategic because your ranged attackers, they can only attack at a range. Like, so if an enemy rushes them,
they're screwed.
They're screwed.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you have a specialty, like one of my mages had like a lightning blast, but it would blast down the entire lane. And if I had an ally on that lane, that ally would take damage as well.
So you probably jump from lane to lane as well,
right? Which counts as like part of your move, though. So you have a stamina bar for your movement and your attack.
Okay, yeah. So it's kind of like a Dungeon Dragon. You have like a minor move, and then you have a larger move, which would be an attack or one of your skills. Okay.
Yeah, and it's just it's a game where I can see myself sinking hours into.
This actually sounds like something I'd like to play.
There's a demo for it. So I've also demo on PSN.
I've also just confirmed that it is a PSN game, so it's only on PS4 and on Vita.
Oh,
so that. Love me playing some games on Vita, and especially something. This sounds like you could probably sink like 100 hours into it as well.
Easily.
Yeah, and
easily. I mean, on the demo alone, I wasted 2 days.
Oh wow! So it's a large demo as well.
No, it's not. But I wasted 2 days because I was doing a lot of management, and then I was just because the way they did the demo was smart. There's only you can only go so far in the story. But then they say, you can sign however many contracts as you want and continue playing the contract part of the game.
Oh, so you could, instead of doing the linear path, you could just keep doing side quests. Right. Just in the demo.
Right.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they don't stop you.
I'll go give that a try.
I suggest everybody, because that made me want to get the game.
I'm loving the influx of games now that come out with a demo. Like, back in the day, demos were all the craze. And then for a short period of time, you never heard about them because no one cared. Right. It was all about seeing things on YouTube. But now I remember, like, Doom was like, and you can play the demo of the first level now, and people are getting super excited. The Final Fantasy 15 tech demo also got.
They had excited. 2 demos. Didn't
they had like they had the one where you go from a kid to an adult.
That was the platinum demo.
Yeah, and then I believe they have more of a tech demo as well.
Right.
So yeah, I'm really liking this new influx in demos because it's really helping me play some of these games.
And I think it's needed because there's sort of this trend of non-AAA gaming that's sort of coming back to the forefront.
And we don't know if it's good or not because you can't tell now. Like a AAA game, yes, it has a higher budget. It's got more of a team, but it doesn't necessarily it's a better game.
No.
So, like, now you got to try out everything. Like, that's what I was saying, making an allusion to earlier. Like, 60 titles a week come out. And, yeah, we hear about No Man's Sky, but out of those 59 other ones, there might be one game that's really good, and we don't know.
Right.
You got to play those demos, or you got to look footage to really find out.
I think it was 3 days ago. I heard Darkest Dungeon's coming to PSN.
Oh, that game is so good. Have you played
and
that?
I've seen it on PC. I don't have a PC that can run it, which is funny because
What is that's weird.
I didn't think the specs were that high for it.
Yeah, they're not very strong.
But it's an amazing game. But it just kind of was like, oh yeah, this is coming out. It was released really quietly in terms of a press release.
I would highly recommend that game too, because I've sunk in like 60 hours on the PC version when I had.
I bet.
I had when the early access came out, I bought it on first day. Because I remember seeing it at PAX East when I went down to Boston. And I was like, oh, wow. This is a gorgeous game. It sounds like fun. It is a brutal game. Like, this is definitely... It's brutal. It's fun. You got to be willing to fail because you're going to fail a lot. But, yeah, that's true. Like, it had such high praise on PC, but because the landscape on consoles and PC as well is so large, it comes out on PlayStation, you don't even know.
Yeah, like I find that happens a lot this gen, where it's like the pressers for some of these things are just so they're not hyped up the way that they used to be.
I think obviously it's a marketing thing, but do your due diligence. Go out there and look out the demos and the videos for games, because there's a lot of great stuff out there. You don't need to pay $70 for games if you want to be a gamer. Like,
no, not at all.
For the longest time, I played exclusively indie games because I knew the games would be like usually less than $20 with some exceptions.
Right. And
that more than enough quenched my thirst for gaming. So do your due diligence. Go out there and look at demos and stuff.
And it's not even that you don't need to spend $60 anymore.
Yeah.
You don't even need a high-end PC anymore.
No, not at all.
Like Undertale.
No, you could probably run that on a calculator.
Game, and I don't think I don't know how your PC could be to run it.
That was one of my top games from last year.
It's an amazing game.
Yeah, great game.
All right, so that's what we were playing. We'll take a quick break, and we will come back with our first topic.
Yep.
All right, we're back from the break, and our topic for today is going to be digital versus hard copy. Which one are you on? Now, I'm very old school. Like, we were talking about our SNES libraries before. I love having a library.
I have an enormous library of hard copy games at home.
You do. It's amazing to look at. So I'm of the mindset that, like, I'll go buy a hard copy if your game has a hard copy.
Yep.
Even if it's like an indie game and somebody like Limited Run Games.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry. Yeah, I got that right. Is publishing it, I will try to buy that game.
I usually like to support with a physical release for anything I really like. Like Shovel Knight came out on digital. I bought it digitally. And then I was like, this is so good. They announced a physical release. I was like, I'll pay the $20 to get a physical release as well.
Yeah. But there's been this trend of everything going digital.
Mm-hmm.
Recently it was announced, I think it was Final Fantasy 15 that announced a collector's edition that doesn't include... Oh no, it was Battlefield 1. Battlefield 1 has a collector's edition that doesn't include the game.
What? How's that work?
So it's like $120.
Okay.
There's no game in it. If you want the game, it's $180. So this is like the collector's edition.
So you get
for
all the
people
extra
who bought
stuff.
digital.
So this is like, I ordered digital, but I also want the cool stuff that comes with it.
Which I thought was like, that kind of confuses me, because if you're buying a collector's edition, you collect.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you want the game? Right. Yeah.
That's a weird one. This must be one of the first cases they do this as well, right?
I think so.
Because I know, like, if you go to a reseller, you go to EB Games, you could buy, let's say, the Batman Arkham Asylum statue. You could buy it separately, but that's because they couldn't sell it.
Yeah,
something
they
like that.
returned it back to
Exactly.
the games or whatever.
But very rarely can you buy the exclusive stuff separate from the game. That's insane.
Yeah, but I can see this continuing.
I could see it too, because especially we are going into a digital age. Like there's no slowing it down. Books, same thing. I always said I'd never read books or comic books on a tablet, but here I am. I'm doing it. Yeah. I still like having physical media. Like anything that I really, really love, I'll make sure I have a physical of it, because years from now I'd like to go back and it's on my shelf and I might pop it back in and have that nostalgia feel. Whereas digital, like I see pros and cons of both.
Right.
Cons of a physical is that I can lose it, break it, it can get stolen.
I might not be able to play in the end.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like in 3 years, my PlayStation 3, let's say, might not work anymore, and I might not be able to play my PlayStation 3 games. But digital also has pros and cons as well. It's a license-based thing. So, for example, some games you bought on original... Well, first of all, let's not even include Nintendo, because their digital ideas are vastly different than what should be the norm. System. But like, you could buy something on PS3, let's say, and the license runs out, so you can't play it further on. So and it might not move on to the next console. So there's like it's a very hard subject in the sense that I want everything to go digital, because in one sense, yes, it's great to have that and possibly be able to be forward thinking, and like on future consoles you'll be able to go back and play those. But at the same time, physical is something that I've been conditioned to have forever. Like, I love having my old games.
Right.
I love having the extra booklets, although most games don't come with those anymore. Like, I love buying a GTA physically, and you get a poster, and you get a map, and you get like all this little extra stuff on the side. You don't get that from digital.
Right. And I think you said it best, that we've been conditioned, because we're older gamers.
Yeah.
That we've been conditioned to really love our libraries. Because I just have this fear of digital, where I'm kind of at the mercy now of the licenses. Yeah. So, for example, Marvel vs. Capcom 3. Yeah. Right? Like, the licensing issue kicked in, so they stopped selling that game. Yeah. But if you had a physical copy of that game, you can continue playing it.
No issues with it
at
all.
But if you have a digital copy of that game, you can't play it. So it's like, I bought this game. Shouldn't I be the owner of it now? Mm-hmm. But that's not the case. Like, I don't know how often it happens with Steam, but I know where like it has happened where a game will just drop off.
I know that, like, if you look at they used to have the old LucasArts game on there, and they've removed them just because they don't have an access to license anymore. So they do remove games digitally. You just it's not in the forefront, so you can't really tell. So it's kind of like hushed aside, like, oh, by the way, this game's not available anymore, and they just kind of hide it into a corner. It's a really weird world, because I'm very pro digital. I like the idea of digital. What I don't like is that it's the exact same price as a physical right now. Like,
that's ridiculous.
I hate the idea that, like, for No Man's Sky, I can buy the physical, lend it to a friend, he can try it. Or I can buy the digital for exactly the same price. I have no CD. If for whatever reason my account gets locked out, I can never play it again. I can't lend it to a friend. They can't try it. But I can download it at midnight. You know what I mean? So there's pros and cons, but right now I'm still kind of on the physical side.
Right, like digital, there's a convenience where you don't have to get up, switch the disc, and like, it's just right there. You can swap select, so you can play a single player. If your friend pops up online saying, hey, do you want to play this multiplayer game? Yeah, you just swap right there. You don't have to say, hold on, let me get the disc.
Yeah, let me just press on the app and that's it.
Right. But I don't know. There's something about digital where I feel that, especially going forward, like how you said that it's forward thinking where they'll let you play previous games. I think that the business side of things will still prevent that from happening,
because they lose money from
exactly. Like, I think when the PS5 and Xbox 2 or whatever come out, and like, if that's the way that they're going to continue going, because I know they said
that's another
I know that they said they're going to change the way they do hardware. And which is smart on their part. But let's say that they're continuing on this trend where there will be another, PS5 and Xbox 2 or whatever. I don't think they're going to give us access to our digital library.
No, because you're just supposed to trust. Like, I know that in certain messaging, I think Xbox, their messaging was like, hey, anything you get now will work on Xbox One, will work on S, will work on Scorpio, and any future Xbox. They can tell you that, but you're kind of just supposed to take it out of trust when they actually, like, let's say they leave this generation and they move on to whatever is next. I can't even imagine what it is. You didn't sign anything that says you can have this forever.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? So you're really at the mercy of a company that, in their best investment, the best thing they can do is not let you play, and then you have to buy it again. Because look at Nintendo. Most people have bought, like, you can buy Chrono Trigger on every console. Most people have bought Chrono Trigger on every console. Yeah. Because, you get the new console, you want to retire the Wii, you with the Wii U, and you're like, oh shit, I want to play Chrono Trigger. But I don't want to go and unplug the game. I'll pay $10 to pay it again. So we're really at the mercy of companies and them wanting money. And at the same time, there's no resale value to digital as well. No. So like a physical, if I don't like it, I can bring it back.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's it. Or I can lend it out, or I can go back to an EB game.
That's a big plus.
It's huge because not everyone has a ton of money. Like, I buy a lot of games, an alarming amount that I shouldn't be buying, and I never resell. But I like to have the option of, I buy a game and then I was like, oh, this is not great. I'll beat it anyways, but I'd like to at least trade it in for something else afterwards. Like if I get 60% of the value by trading it in, I still got 60% of that back. Whereas digital, I didn't like it. That's it. It's on there. I can't.
Wasn't that the original idea for Xbox, where they were going all digital, but you could trade?
Yeah, you had a trial period.
Yeah,
which I believe. So like Steam has this now too. They incorporated it. If within 2 hours of playing it, you realize you don't want it, you can get a refund and apply for it. The issue with Steam is that there's games of vast degrees, so you can have a 1 hour game and beat it and trade it back in. So that's another thing entirely. Right. But it still doesn't have that feel. Like No Man's Sky. After 2 hours, you still don't fully know if you're fully invested into it because there's still so much to see.
Right.
But if you play like 40 hours and like you push yourself and you're like, this is not great, you want to have that option to bring it back, sell it in. Like not bring it back for a full refund. Just like, oh, I'll trade it in. I pay $70 Canadian. I can maybe get 35. That's half price on my next one. But also, I also understand the idea of clutter as well. Like now, the more and more stuff I have, books, DVDs, like Blu-rays, CDs.
Oh, yeah, it all takes up space.
It takes space, and like, how many of these things do I revisit as well? So it's
right, and there is the environmental aspect. Like, I mean, to make the disc and the case it comes in and whatnot,
and the pollution that's created by it.
Right, of course.
But still, uncanned hard copy. I'm still for it.
All right.
What about you? Where you lean more on?
I'm all aboard the hard copy.
Yeah, I think also because we're an older generation.
Again, yeah, I think it's because I've been programmed to think that way.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, I find that, let's take the Wii U, for example. It had 32 gigabyte hard drive.
Yeah, never filled up.
But let's say I never played any of the games that had higher storage, like something like Xenoblade Chronicles X,
which I think is like 6 gigs or something like that.
Well, I'm sure it was more than that.
I honestly, here's the thing. Know, but I actually own it. Never played it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. Huh. Somebody bought it, borrowed my Wii U, played through it, and then just gave me the game afterwards.
What?
Yeah.
You get the best gifts.
Yeah, I know. I'm pretty lucky in general.
My God.
If you want to play that,
gift. I might borrow that from you.
I'll lend that.
But let's take something like that. I mean, like, that's got to be, 8, 9 gigs.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, like, 4 games of that type. When I filled up my hard drive, do I now go buy another hard drive and plug it in? And do I delete the game with the fear that if I delete this game from my hard drive, and then they decide, then they decide, well, you can no longer download this game. I can't get it back. Like what happened to PT.
Yeah,
the PT demo on PSN. That, like, if you downloaded it, I know people who were afraid of, like, losing it. Yeah. And some people I've heard had issues where they had to format their PlayStation, and they're like, oh, great, I just lost PT, and I'll never get it back.
Some people were selling their PlayStations that had PT on it because they're like, hey, this will never be downloaded. If you haven't had the chance to download it, you can pay an extra $200 for this PS4 and get it.
Yeah, and people were paying it.
Yeah. And a size thing is an issue, because I have the smallest model of PS4, And every time I buy a digital, most digital games I would buy are usually smaller indie titles that I can't get a physical for. I usually get physical for everything. So when I get a physical, for example, Metal Gear Solid, that's a 28 gig game.
Yeah.
That's a quarter of my hard drive right there. And then that stays installed. I don't beat it, let's say, because I want to go back to it. Then I install GTA 5. There's another 36 gigs. Then you're just, it's as you were saying, like space management becomes rough. Like four AAA games fills up your hard drive in general. Then you got to delete one. You got to pick and choose. Then you're unsure if you'll get that game ever again because of the licensing.
Right.
It's we're in a weird world.
Especially the thing is, if you delete it from your hard drive and you've bought digital, I mean, especially if you're somebody who has a collection, down the line you might even forgot that you bought that game.
Yeah.
Like, at least for me.
I have so many games on PlayStation, completely forgot I had. Especially with PS Plus. Like, I've bought games and then look back on my library and like, oh, I already have this.
Yeah.
Like, oh, why did I buy the physical?
Exactly.
Oh, well, most of the time, though, if I buy a physical, it's because I really want it, though. I think we're like in the Wild West of it, where it's not fully defined, and we still have those fears of previous generations of digital. And whereas newer people are like, oh, why would I get a physical? I can just get a digital, and like it doesn't clutter, and so on and so forth. Right. I think in 10 years, we might be a lot more clearer on what things are. But right now, we're really in a spot that you can go either way.
Right, because I think Sony and Microsoft haven't really figured out what they want to do for digital in terms of like...
Or if they haven't let out that message.
Sorry, yeah, that's true. They haven't gone public with it. I mean, Xbox tried it, and then they had to go back on that statement. Whereas Steam has a system in place, but it's also something that gets criticized heavily.
Yeah.
So I think you're right that it's kind of this Wild West period where it's not fully defined. I thought Nintendo, with the NX going forward, I thought they were going to go digital as well. And we don't know. They might.
Well, there's that rumor of cartridges, but even then...
But for all we know, the cartridges could be like hard drives that you're swapping.
That's true. I didn't even think about that. It could be unrelated to actual games and you have to buy digitally. That's true.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think we're kind of in this weird transition stage for gaming where it is like it's inevitable. It's going to go digital.
Yeah, because they save a lot of money by doing it.
Absolutely. And then there's no inventory stuck on shelves. I mean, like companies like GameStop will be fighting that.
They'll be screwed. Yeah. But on the other hand, like I feel like if that's, let's say a digital only console, it's existed before. Ouya didn't work. I own one. PS Go was digital only, so it's like the PSP that was strictly digital. Did not work. I owned one. Future generations could do that. They'd be digital only, but it's still the same idea. Like, are costs of games going to go down? Like, I hate the idea that I'm buying digital and it costs me $80 with no bonus at all. Like, there's no physical piece of media I can't share and all that. If we go to a digital only future in the future, and they're like, oh, instead of games being $70, they'll be $55. I can understand that. There's more of a value to that, especially like if nowadays new Call of Duty comes out. I won't buy it, but let's say let's use Call of Duty as an example. The physical release is $79.99. You know, you get the map, or not map, but you get like a little booklet. You get the box. You get to put it on your shelf. Cool. But if they offered it digital for $15 less, then I might be more apt to go digital only. Right. You know, I would buy physical if it was a game I really, really, really wanted because I know down the line this is what I want. Right. But then you kind of have it kind of evens out the skew where you're like, oh, if I get physical, I can trade it in. Yes, it costs me more. I take that risk, but I can also trade it in. I can lend it. Right. Whereas if you go digital, you're like, oh, it's cheaper. I know I'm only going to play this through and never touch it again. You can really evaluate that, but they just haven't done that. Right. And that it's what you mentioned earlier, that they kind of have to figure out what they want to do in terms of for lack of a better word, auction house. Mm-hmm. Like if I buy digitally
can I lend it to friends? Maybe a certain number of friends I can lend the game
I think
out
Steam
to.
was talking about that too.
Steam was talking about that. I think Microsoft was talking about that with the original Xbox.
Wow.
It's funny how many people jumped on Xbox for what they were trying to do, but it was like, yeah, sure, there was some shady stuff in there, like online all the time. That was probably a really bad idea. But in terms of their digital only, they kind of had like a rough blueprint of something that could work going forward. But people harped on them for it, so they had to change it. Because I think it was something where it was like you can lend the game out to like 3 friends to try it with you.
Which makes sense.
And you could trade the game back.
Yeah.
And so if something like that could be worked out where it's like you can trade your digital games, you can lend your digital games, then I think I'd be less apprehensive going forward.
Yeah, I think that's we're just kind of reserved on it because there is that fear of previous things, and it still seems super forward thinking that I won't get a physical and that it's strictly to me. And you could sell it back, but you're like, how do I sell back digital information? This seems weird. Right. So like, I still have that mind block on there, and I think that's also why they got so much rap from making those announcements that that's what they were going to do. Right. But it is forward thinking. Like it or not, in 10 years that might be the norm. Yeah. It's just right now you got to find an introductory period and find a right messaging for it for all of us to be happy about it. But still going to be on the hard copy side probably for a long
me too. Yeah. All right. We'll take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Okay.
And we're back from the break. And our next topic we're going to be talking about is esports on sports channels. And the reason why I wanted to talk about this was because I was watching the Rocket League final. Mm-hmm. And it was iBuyPower Cosmic versus Flipside. And iBuyPower has this guy, Kronovi, who plays on the team. And I watched him on YouTube, and he got me interested in Rocket League, like before it became a PS Plus
game. Is he a
game.
Twitch streamer, I would assume?
I think he's also on Twitch, but I've just seen his YouTube stuff and the stuff that he was pulling off in the game. Like, Rocket League's an amazing game.
I think it's immensely fun, and it also lends itself to this kind of stuff as well.
It's one of those games where you can sit back and watch it and be entertained. Mm-hmm. And so, so I would watch his YouTube clips and saw the stuff he was pulling off in Rocket League, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I really want to play this game. And then I played the game, and I suck at it. Mm-hmm. I'm not good at it at all. But I loved watching it, and even watching the finals was just so entertaining that I was like, oh my gosh, I hope this comes on TV for people to watch. And in the same vein, I watched Evo 2016. Yeah. Did you watch that?
So I didn't watch Evo. I've read most of the news about it. I like to... I can't watch any of this stuff live most of the time just because I already watch so much gaming stuff and like occasional Twitch streams that I can't invest myself in 2 days worth of a tournament.
See, that's the only thing I watch on Twitch. I'll watch the tournaments. Stuff. Yeah. Like, I'll watch a lot of Counter-Strike, because I used to play competitive Counter-Strike back when they had the Cal Leagues, Cyber Athlete Leagues, way back in 1.6. So I love watching just the tournament stuff. I can't watch somebody playing, because I find half the time they're just talking to their Twitch channel.
Yeah,
which they have to do. I get that.
Mm-hmm. We're also in this is a generational thing, but like Twitch is... More people watch gaming now than play games. Yeah. So we're really at that point where esports is like the first time I'd heard that, I think it was StarCraft. It was like a publicized event. You could order a pay-per-view and watch it. In my mind, I was like, this is insane. Yeah. Like, why would I pay so much money to watch someone play StarCraft?
To watch these 16-year-olds play StarCraft.
That's it. But then like 4 years later, I'm like, I'm considering watching like the Street Fighter competition of Evo and stuff like that. So... It's definitely a generational thing, but like kids nowadays, my friends' daughters and stuff, like they're like 6 and they're watching YouTube. Yeah, they're watching streams of games and so it's still so foreign to me, but I completely understand it. And I think especially because just recently, Evo also played on ESPN.
Yeah, Evo the finals were on ESPN.
So that's like a huge leap as far as like on a marketing standpoint, and also of awareness of this. I think like it's going to skyrocket in the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, like I mean, especially North America, because I think in Asia it's already very big. Like gaming is huge.
I know Korea is huge on StarCraft. Like if you play StarCraft and you're famous from StarCraft, you're a bigger name than most people that are around there.
And there was a period of time for Europe and Russia where, well, I shouldn't say period of time because I don't think it's done yet, but like Counter-Strike is huge there.
And there's a huge scene here as well.
There's a huge scene picking up here.
Yeah.
The other day I was at IKEA and I saw a guy wearing a Fnatic hat. And it had like one of the CSGO players' names on the back. And I was just like, oh man, that's kind of cool. You don't see that often. But I know like it's huge in the European and Russian scene. So I think it's only inevitable that it comes to television.
Yeah.
I mean, like when I heard ESPN was going to be picking up gaming, I thought that was great. Now, the ESPN sportscasters, I know a couple of them were making fun of it. And I'm like, you guys have spelling bee competitions on your channel.
Or poker.
And like poker.
Or darts. Like, they're all niche things. Like, I can't watch a poker game or darts.
No, I can't watch darts. But if you have watched darts,
people go nuts.
The people go insane in the crowd.
They have WrestleMania level entrances with pyro and stuff.
Yeah, and like the guy, he hits the triple 20 and the guy yells out 180 and the crowd's losing their mind, holding up signs and whatnot. It's like, that's crazy. I don't understand that. Meanwhile, I'm watching Evo because I watch it every year, and I'm like, "Oh my god, this fight's insane!" And I totally get it why people sometimes are like, "I don't get what you see in it."
It's taboo to a lot of people.
Yeah, it is niche, but it's competition, and especially the fighting scene is an entertaining competition. I mean, I have yet to watch an Evo where I thought this was boring.
That's the thing. Like, I don't watch them live, but I'll always watch whatever people say are crazy matches. Like, I remember, I can't remember the name of them, but like 3 years ago, the final had like counter upon counter upon counter. And you could just see the crowd getting crazier and crazier as it happens. And it's like, a good game of sport is amazing. A normal game of sport, most of the time, is not that interesting to watch. So this is not drastically different to what sports are. And like, we're at that level that people in esports are getting sport visas. Right. Which, like, it's starting finally to be seriously taken as a serious thing. Because, I don't know about you, but if we get into a fighting tournament, I ain't winning. You know what I mean? Like, we're no experts. There is an actual expertise around these things. Like, you got to know when a frame hits. Like, oh, this movement, I know it gets me up like 16 frames, and at the 14th frame, there's a chance that I might get parried and so on and so forth. Like, there is an actual knowledge behind everything. There's actual training. There's actual practice. It just seems so foreign to the general populace that don't play games because they assume, oh, it's a video game. I could do that. Yeah. I mean, like, why does this little Asian man from Korea get to come to our country on a visa? Right. But I can't go there and play into a tournament, you know what I mean? Right. Like, they don't realize there's a lot of skill involved. Oh, yeah, it's insane. In what they're doing. Like, we can't do this. No, there's no way you could do it. Like, again, going back to the Rocket League thing, there's no way I could do that. It looks like, I mean, to some people who just pass by and watch it, you're like, oh, this game is chaos. It just looks easy. Yeah. But it's not chaos. There's organization. They have strategies. They have plays. That's it. And it just... There's communication between teams. Yeah, and you don't see that. Mm-hmm. But it's just, they make it look so easy. Yeah. But like, I watch a soccer game. I have no understanding of it. And when it's not good, to me, it's like, oh, I don't get this. Like, I could do this. Right. There was 90 minutes wasted. That's it. I was like, I don't see the appeal of this. But there's a population of people that will watch it, and it's definitely at that point. Like, ESPN, like, will show anything. Yeah. Like, well, they have like 6 channels, don't they? That's it. Yeah, I think this one's on ESPN 2, so it's not even on the 6th one. So so they've really gone up there. But it's finally being accepted, and I think it's really cool. Like, I love it. Like, I don't watch much of these live, but I think it's a great idea. The only concern that I have about it, and I know, again, it's game specific, right? Like, I mean, each game is run by a different organization. That's it, yeah. But I think the organizations should realize, like, going forward on television, like, I hope they step up their game in terms of, like,
just in terms of governing body.
Yeah.
Like managing, because nobody wants to see some 16-year-old standing up there yelling, "Your mom is going down like a whore." You know,
we're talking
like the trash talking.
Yeah.
Like you kind of hope that they're like, I know the commentators are professional. They have to wear suits. They're very professional in terms of like what they're saying. They're very aware about what they're saying. Like they know, okay, well, we're not going to drop F-bombs or whatever.
Yeah, that's it.
But I think like there should be some governing body that's like professional misconduct from the players.
Yeah, that's it. Like because like if you think of NHLs, there's a set of rules that like to be honorable, you got to show up with a suit. You know, you can't. If you look at any of the NHL guys that have an interview after something, you'll never hear anything said bad about anyone else, because if they do, there's an actual penalty behind everything. So I think we're also in that stage where this is still new, so it's kind of like UFC at first.
They're figuring it out.
That's it. Like UFC, the first couple of years, you could downright punch a man behind the head. You could choke him. You can essentially kill him and you'd be fine. But like as it becomes popular and as it becomes to the stage where more and more people are seeing it and they can try and reproduce it, it needs to have a set of rules.
Right.
My concern on most of the things is so I've watched Evo before, and because I have a gaming knowledge, I understand some of the terms they say and stuff. But for example, I tried to watch a League of Legends thing, and the point of entry is impossible for me to understand.
Right, it's not very beginner friendly.
That's it. It has a lot of terms that are specific to it, and I don't fully understand it. And what I saw is I watched the ESPN version of Evo this year, and I thought they had a really good entry level understanding of everything. Yes. So like as the lower matches were being talked about and things weren't really exciting yet, they're explaining why. They're like, oh, they're still kind of judging the distance. They're trying to make sure they don't get parried here. And then they would explain why.
Right.
And I think that's really good. Like, that's something that for each game on an individual basis is going to need someone very knowledgeable to do commentating. Because, for example, if let's say I get really into this and I want to show my mom it needs to be something that she can understand off the first bat.
Right. And they don't need to go for, as an example, like when Fox started showing hockey. Like, they don't need to go that far. No, it's like, that was really dumbed down.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be dumbed down. They don't need to
do that.
It's not the XFL.
Right, exactly. Yeah. Like, I mean, they can do it in a way, as you said, ESPN, I think, did a great job of it this year.
It was professional. It was just everything was well explained. Enough that when later on they're freaking out about parries and about counter blows and like,
you can see like, oh, I can see that.
That's it. He just hit his ultra and you're like, oh, okay, I understand. You know,
and especially again sticking with the fighting community, I love that the commentators when they get excited about something like a parry, they do, like you said, they explain why that's such an important thing, but they do it in the moment. Mm-hmm. Like, it's not like they say, oh, let's go back and talk about that. They're doing it as the fight's going on.
Yeah, as they're getting excited.
Right, and so you start to slowly get excited. Like, oh, yeah, no, I totally see that. Yeah. Oh, my gosh.
That's a sign of a good commentator. Yeah. And I think that's what a lot of these things of this pro quality, like, because I've seen previous Evos, and so camera angles, for example, are very different from there to ESPN. You could see that polish that ESPN has, you know? Yeah. It had a shot of the people's faces and their hands, you know? Because you don't realize, but a lot of the gaming is just, there's a crazy amount of coordination with their hands. So they're showing you that aspect. They have professional shots. They have professional pen shots. And then on top of that, they know, like, okay, you commentate here. You don't talk over this. I think... on top of the government body that we were talking, it's going to really have to be defined in each individual. I think the one that's going to break entry is definitely fighting games. I think anyone can understand that. Whereas League of Legends, as large as it is still kind of niche in a sense. Like, for me that plays video games, I don't play MOBAs, I don't understand it. But if I didn't play fighting games, I could still understand what a fighting game's goal is. Right,
like, especially like we're talking about North American market.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, like a League of Legends, I don't see it being as popular as, say, like a Street Fighter tournament here in North America on television.
That's it, yeah. I think it needs to be a game. Like Rocket League, I could see.
Yeah.
Because you look at it and you're like, oh, it's cars playing soccer. Yeah. And it needs to go, like, the ball needs to enter the net. You can also fly. Okay, I can get behind that. Whereas League of Legends, it's like, oh, it's I'm gonna get this wrong, by the way. So it's a 5-on-5 team. Oh, your goal's not to just kill them. Okay, what does this do? Why does this character have something different? And also, these games are much larger as well.
They are.
But they're very
scope.
Their professional events are really geared for fans. Like, they're not at that level where Street Fighter and stuff is something that can be easily understandable. Right. And I think that's why.
Like, I'm not denying the success of them because they're hugely popular. Like, they're number 1 and 2 on stream all the time.
Of course, and like I could see the appeal of watching it if you understand. Like, I could just like, I'm trying to think of something that I could play almost competitively. Maybe like a wrestling game. I can play that and see like, oh my god, he's done a reversal from here. You can't do that.
Right.
Like, oh my god, WWE All-Stars, he went for like the flashy elbow and somehow drop kicked him midair. Like, I can understand those things, but because I don't understand League of Legends, I can't watch it. But it doesn't mean that I don't respect the
right,
because there is a lot of skill in there. Just like StarCraft, you watch someone play that, you look at them type on a keyboard. There is an unreal amount of coordination. You know, it's not just about typing. You don't just like, oh, press E as fast as you can the whole time. There's a gazillion things going on. You're not aware of it.
Right.
Bring more of that on TV. I think it's going to happen. I think Evo will probably do it again.
Oh, for sure. I think Evo was a success.
Mm-hmm. What do you think?
Minus. I won't get into it, but there was an incident that happened this year.
Oh yes,
and I won't get into it because it's a huge discussion. Yeah. But needless to say, if there was a governing body, because again, like that's something like Evo is a bunch of fighting tournaments. So Evo is an organizing body that sets aside like the time and the spots for the tournaments, but then those individual fighting tournaments are ran by their own tournament organizers.
That's it. And I think each fighter is on an independent basis. It's not like they're contracted to someone to do these things.
Right, exactly. And then when those fighters are done at Evo, they can go to, like, we can run a tournament up here.
Yeah, theoretically. Yeah.
And they could be organizers that abide to the rules that all the other tournament organizers
or like to. Critical or whatever can show up here and play as well.
Right, exactly. So, like, I mean, in that sense, when they're on television, again, going back to that governing body, you kind of hope that there's somebody who's monitoring the players.
Yeah, because like in the NFL, if you slap someone in the face outside of the NFL, you know, you beat up your wife, for example, there is someone that's going to call you out on this, and there are repercussions. Whereas, like, and we're not talking about the example, but like, if something happens on this, no one is other than the person.
Right, like it's up to each tournament organizer. We might say, well, we don't want this guy to come and fight in our tournament.
Yeah.
But that doesn't
He could still fight.
Right. Yeah. Somebody somewhere else might be like, no, he's still in the league. That's okay.
So I think before we end this subject, what do you think is the next one that breaks that point of entry?
On television?
So like, and I mean on a large broadcast, because you can watch any of these on pay-per-view at this point. But what's the next one that ESPN might potentially grab?
I'm going to say Overwatch.
I didn't even think that. It's an insane amount of people are playing that.
Right, and it's not a complicated game.
No, that like the only thing that might be complex is understanding what each character might do.
Right, which they could take some time to explain.
Yeah, but it's flashy enough too that you could get it. It's
flashy enough, and it's a shooter, which North Americans love.
Yeah, and they can completely understand it. Yeah, it's team-based, so you can actually see some team tactic, and there's enough lingo that is easily understandable if you were to explain. You know what? I didn't even have one.
Which were you going with?
I didn't have one yet.
Have one.
No, I was probably going to gear towards another fighting game, but I can't think of one that would have the appeal of, like, I know Smash Brothers is definitely a large. Was it shown on ESPN?
Yeah. No.
No. Okay. So it was just the Street Fighter stuff.
It was just Street
So I know, like, the Smash Brothers has a huge community, and I can easily understand that, and I think that could be easily. Like, hey, Mario's fighting Luigi, and you're like, oh, I get that. Okay, cool. He's got cool moves. That's fine. But now that I think about it, Overwatch is like a huge sensation right now.
Yeah.
Like, bigger than any other game. Even I, who, first of all, doesn't like multiplayer games and is impartial to, I like first-person games, but I'm not huge into shooting. I played the beta and I couldn't stop. I loved it. And then when the actual release came out, I was like, should I buy this? Like, I really don't want to play with people.
It's that Blizzard magic.
Oh, they're so good.
They're so good.
Yeah, so I completely agree. That could definitely break that point of entry. I don't like, and it's so new now. Obviously, you'll have its own tournament maybe next year run by Blizzard.
Right.
But like, give it another year's time if it still has life to it, and I think it will.
I think it will.
I think that game's going to be around for a while. I could definitely see that breaking that point of entry and being on TV.
All right. Well, that was our episode for this week. Once again, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, if you have any topics you'd like for us to discuss,
please suggest them.
Yeah, for sure. You can reach us on Twitter. I'm at Nerdy Royalty, all one word.
I'm at Evil Uno, also one word.
All right. Well, thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.